This is a spoiler review for the 2024 film Blink Twice. Prepare yourself. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I've just filmed my review for Blink Twice. It was a disturbing film, and I feel that I kind of need to do a spoiler. This is the thing about horror movies, is that you can't really talk about what happens without spoiling it. So this is one where a spoiler review is probably necessary. And I'm not saying warranted, I'm saying necessary, because the subject matter in this film is truly disturbing. Blink Twice is a film, there's a billionaire played by Channing Tatum who invites a group of women to his pleasure island. And spoilers start here, okay? On the pleasure island, they give the women a local flower in a perfume, in drinks and such, that causes them to forget. And then they sexually assault them, night after night after night. And it turns out that there's a snake on the island, that the venom of this snake counteracts the forgetful potion, and women get a hold of drinks with the snake venom in it, and they start remembering. And so now they know what's happening. And, I mean, again, this is a very disturbing film. You can look at this film as simply being something that is, it's about people who think they have too much power, about people who are so wealthy that their brain can no longer understand it. Or you could look at this film as how business is assaulting our natural environment. You could look at it that way, as an environmental film. It's like, yes, you know, what's happening in this film is that you've got the businessmen played by the billionaires and their friends, and then you've got our natural environment played by the women, and they do terrible things to this natural environment, and the natural environment eventually bites back, which is essentially happening. That's climate change. That's one way of looking at this film. You can also look at this film in terms of, you know, the working relationship between business and the poor. You know, it's one of those things about business and the poor. It's like, yeah, you know, I've had jobs where I had a boss, I just had to accept whatever lie they were shoving down my throat, and if I didn't accept that lie, I was going to lose my job, and eventually you just couldn't take it anymore. The lie became too obvious. So there's, I mean, this movie is going to be a lot of what you interpret it as, but it is very disturbing. It is very relevant. It is a film that reminds me of modern life. Now, one of the things I dislike about this film is that the mechanics of snake venom don't work that way. There are such drugs. I don't know if there are any botanical flowers that do it, but there are such drugs that make you not remember things, okay? And they're actually used as a medical tool for situations where you're going to have a huge amount of pain. You know, it's like, okay, this is going to hurt, but you're not going to remember how bad it hurt. So the moment will be bad, but you're not going to remember that moment. And they would inject you with that and reset your bone or whatever it is. And these things are real, okay? The particular level of this drug, you know, there's probably nothing that absolutely replicates it, but things of this nature are real, okay? It's absolutely gory and upsetting that someone would, you know, give you a drug that makes you forget the abuse while they abuse you, listen to you scream, and, you know, see the blood on your face. That's disturbing, okay? Now, the thing about snake venom, however, is that snake venom, I mean, I actually saw a documentary once about a group of men who took a barrel of beer out to a stream. This was before refrigeration. And they drank the beer, and it turned out, I think I heard something. It turned out that a cottonmouth, I believe it was a cottonmouth, one might have been a water moccasin, had crawled into that barrel and died. And the men all died from drinking the beer. Well, the poison of that snake could not have affected them that way because it needs to enter the bloodstream to do the damage. So what happened was that that snake had eaten rats. They had put out poison to kill the rats. The snake had likely eaten the rats and had the poison in it, and that's what killed the men. Drinking snake venom should not actually affect you. In your digestive system, it should not have, unless you have a bleeding ulcer or something, snake venom really shouldn't have much to do with that. So there is that. The other point I have to point out here is that the human body cannot take that kind of punishment. I mean, I'm going to grant you this, that if you're going to a pleasure island where you're going to be given copious amounts of drugs and alcohol, well, you're kind of expecting debauchery. So this is one of those things that doesn't really jive. It's like, you know, when you get those people that went to the Playboy Mansion and then complained about having sex. I grant you, no should mean no, and anybody having sex with, even at the Playboy Mansion, you should be there and you should have every right. But just to understand that the whole point of going there is to have sex. You're going to a party where you're going to drink and have a lot of sex, and the guys are there because they're generally paying money, and the girls are there because they're getting paid and getting free booze and drugs and whatever it is. That's why I don't go to those kind of parties. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, this is what would be expected of that, although I have to, you know, definitely, even if you're at a party where that's expected, if a woman says no, no means no. And really, I mean, you shouldn't be taking advantage of women if they're drunk. But the thing about that is that these women the next day, they may have phantom bruises, and they're like, okay, where did that come from? I don't remember anything. But they would have more than phantom bruises. Let's just be clear on that. I'm assuming this is a point that is made for artistic license, but I mean, if this were actually happening to women night after night after night, they would be in a lot worse. I mean, they would notice something. I mean, they would know at the end of the day that something had happened, because what is happening is very brutal. And so there's that as a point. You know, this film, again, I rated this as a must-watch film. It is a very disturbing film, and it's probably going to go down as one of those films that it stands out in terms of its quality and its nature, because the point of a film is to elicit a strong emotional response. Some films do this by being terrible. Some films do this by being good. This film does it by horrifying you. It shows you images and situations that are realistic enough and truly disturbing. I have to point out the things that they don't jive terribly well with my understanding of the world. Right? Need to be clear on that. You know, that it's like, I don't think snake venom works that way. I don't think these women could be that oblivious because of the toll it would take on them. And these are legitimate criticisms of this film, but you have to ask yourself, is this a film meant to be grounded in reality, or this a film that is designed to make a point? And really, I think this is existential in its nature, that what you should take away from this film should really much depend on you as a person, not so much the film. I mean, if you're a woman, obviously, one of the big takeaways is don't go places with strange men, because bad things can happen to you. And if you're a person of power, what you should take away from this is, hey, you know, there may be a point where my power fails me and I'm going to get caught. And if that happens, well, I'm going to suffer what I deserve. this is a big theme in modern society. And of course, if you're an environmentalist, I've already stated this feels like, the abuse of the environment by modern man. And if you're a low-end worker, again, feels like that same level of abuse. That is why this is an existentialist film, in that the morals are not 100% clear. They can be applied to multiple situations, and they are meant to illustrate and force the viewer to think. And that is something that is very powerful, and we should all do that. Again, much as I say this is a must-watch film, the concept of a must-watch film varies. There are must-watch films that, if you're 10 years old, you should probably watch E.T. There are some disturbing points in E.T., and it's possible not everybody should watch that at, say, 4. Also, you probably wouldn't remember it if you watched it at 4. But there are certain must-watch films that you should only see when you are an adult, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Requiem for a Dream, and A Clockwork Orange, and this film fits into that category. Anyway, this is a point where I'm going to remind you all, not only should you comment, like, and subscribe, but if you see movies in theaters that you want me to review, letting me know would be a good thing. Nobody asked me to review this movie. It simply came along. It was a convenient film to see, and I'm glad I watched it. Had I known what it was, I probably would not have watched it, because these particular movies disturb me. But if you want me to watch these things, letting me know would be a good idea. Thank you to all of my subscribers. That was my opinion. I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. I, of course, am Richard. Randall the Rat here, reminding you to comment, like, and subscribe. And why should you do that? Well, look over here. These are bracelets from 4Ocean. Each one of them means a pound of trash was pulled out of the ocean. And this channel buys one for every 1,000 subscribers it gets. And this around my neck, well, this is a medal from the Conqueror. It represents walking around the Great Pyramids of Giza. You can get one for yourself by going to the Conqueror challenges.com and saying, hey, I want to pretend I walked around the pyramids of Giza without dealing with all the sweat and flies and delicious scarab beetles. Or you could support this channel so they can buy more of these, which means that they will plant trees, because each one of these represents 5 trees that got planted. Yeah, that's right, 5 trees helping your environment. Global warming sucks. Be a good person, comment, like, and subscribe. Give us more money so that we can plant trees by buying medals from the Conqueror. Randall out.